Hey gamers, it's Wintermute here from Grind This Game, back with the beginner's tutorial. This is part 3 of the series, so check out the description if you want to link to the playlist. And since the last episode, got a food shortage here, let's take care of that. Since the last episode, I've let the game kind of run a little bit, let them kind of pick up some stuff on the floor, clean things up a little bit. And we need to make a bit more food now. So we'll do that. But in this episode, I want to talk about germs and killing off germs. So you'll notice some of the dupes here have food poisoning on them. This guy's okay because he's going to go by the sink here. But because we have a compost setup, some of the polluted dirt from the outhouses goes in here. And the dirt that comes out, if we click on this little piece of dirt here, we can see it has some germs on it. Now the germs are dying, but they're making mush bars at the moment, which require dirt and water. So they might be using some of this food poison infested dirt to make their food, which is really bad because if you do the germ overlay, no one right now has food poisoning, but they have been getting a little bit of food poisoning. And we can see in here that there's some food poisoning on the sand and granite and obsidian in there. So what I want to do this episode is build a chlorine storage room. And we have some chlorine over here. And if you notice, the pressure in here is 1,000 grams, but the pressure inside the base is higher because we have our algae deoxidizer pumping away. Pressure outside is higher. So generally gases move from kind of low pressure, or from high pressure. Like basically this high pressure here will keep most of the chlorine in, but probably not all of it. So we want to build an airlock. And we researched that last episode. That was under, let's see, pressure management here. So there's two types of airlocks. There's the manual one and there's a powered one that's faster, but we're just going to use the manual airlock. And I'm going to build one right here, kind of close to this chlorine. Actually, I'm going to build it even closer here, right by the edge. And I'm actually going to build 3 of them, which seems kind of crazy, but it's more effective at keeping these gases in here. Now, there's a thing you can build called a liquid lock, which is even more effective at keeping gases in, and I'll do a tutorial about that as a separate episode, but it's a little bit more involved to set up. So we're just gonna do the regular one here. I should probably lower the priority of this a bit because they're doing other things. So once the airlocks are built, then we can dig these last few tiles. And then inside here, we can store our food, we can store all our dirty materials, and it'll kill all the germs pretty much instantly. So this will become our food storage plus kind of material storage. I'll probably remove a lot of the materials that are in here. And we gotta get off mush bars as quickly as possible because they're not a very good source of food. They cause diarrhea, and they're made out of dirt and water is kind of precious. We want to get onto lice loaf, which is we make out of this meal lice. But I also want to plant bristle blossoms. And your map should start with quite a few of these. And you want to get them planted pretty early on because they'll start making seeds for you. Right now we only have 14 seeds. So I'm going to copy those settings along there and get some of these planted. Now you can fit these in a room that's only 3 tiles high, but I like to build all my floors with 4 tiles just in case I change like the functionality of the room later on. Now these bristle blossoms, they're a higher quality food. Oh, they also require light, and they require quite a bit of water. So we're actually I should have done this a little bit differently. I'm gonna take this 4th one out, deconstruct that, and we'll install a little lamp in there. And that will provide light to the bristle blossoms. If you put a under furniture lamp, if we put a lamp right here, it's going to cover 4 bristle blossoms on the right and 4 bristle blossoms on the left. So I might even put a couple more in there. Let's put in under food, put a couple planter boxes in. I'm a little bit worried this wall might break down, so I think I'll just do 1 instead of 2. I'm a little bit worried this might break. And now we have to set up some power I'm going to set up some regular tiles as the base here, and that way we'll be able to run our wire through that. So once that's done, we'll bring the wire down from our main power system here and hook it all up. I'm going to change the priority of that as well because it's a little bit high. Now, since the last episode, they graduated, or they skilled up in a lot of their jobs, so I've moved them over to the next level. So Otto here was apprentice miner, but he got to 100%, so I moved him over. And Niccolo will be ready to become a regular chef pretty soon. He's at 80%. And the game will alert you in the top left here. It'll say, you know, jobs are done. And we're still pumping away with the algae deoxidizer. Oxygen levels are good, but where algae is running low, we've got 3,800 kilograms. But there's lots of algae down here that we can use. And there's some up here. There's quite a bit in the starting area, so we can just keep using this for now. But we may want to put an airlock right in here to prevent our oxygen kind of flooding into this area. So I'm going to do that. Put an airlock here. And a couple tiles to seal it in. Now that means a lot of oxygen won't get in here. So when they go and run in here over time, they'll use up all the oxygen. But for now, it'll be better to keep the base pressurized. So things are going pretty smoothly. This water is coming down slowly. They're using it for food and they're using it for the sinks and stuff. And we have a food shortage because we have no power. So I'm going to set the power up here, priority on the generator a little bit higher. So get some power going. And now that this meal lice is becoming ready, I'm going to stop making mush bars, switch back over to lice loaf. That way we'll get a little bit more calories out of our lice loaf. And let's hook up the power for that lamp. Let's do priority 6. Up here, along there, and up to our main circuit. Now we have one dupe that's basically always busy kind of running on the wheel here because we've got a bunch of stuff powered. So we may want to research coal power, which is up here. Internal combustion, coal power. The coal generator generates 600 watts. So we're going to do that next. And that way we can put a coal generator up here. I like to build it at the top because it produces heat. And we want all our heat at the top of the base and all our cooling kind of down at the bottom of the base where the food is, because the mealwood will only grow in 10 to 30 degrees and the bristle blossoms will only grow in 5 to 30 degrees. So we can't let it get too warm in here. And we also have kind of polluted oxygen venting off from this polluted water. So last episode we researched the deodorizer, which was under, where was it? Decontamination. Deodorizer's under there. Oops, I don't want to research all that. So we can build under oxygen. We have a deodorizer now. And I'm going to build one of those right over here. That way it'll use sand to clean the polluted oxygen out of the air, which is good. And we have lots of sand, so that'll last effectively forever. Now I'll skip ahead until they have this built, and then we'll set up the chlorine germ killing room. So now we have these airlocks built. I'm going to do a high priority dig just to get in here. And I'm going to build a airflow tile floor kind of along the bottom here. And we should probably build a ladder so we can build a bit of a storage room in here. So I might do the ladder over here actually. But we also want to get down here. Now we don't want any other gases getting in here. We want this to stay as chlorine. Now there is hydrogen up here, but it will stay at the top. Now a little bit of chlorine got out there. You can see a little tiny bit of chlorine. And that's okay. That'll end up settling between the CO2 layer, which is down here, and the oxygen layer. So we'll get a little bit of chlorine here, which may become a problem, but we want to dig down deeper to be able to let this CO2 to sink to the bottom. Now we could be storing our food in the CO2 down here and it would stay sterile and it wouldn't decay over time. But instead of doing it here, I'm going to do it in the chlorine room. And that way it'll kill any germs that kind of build up in it as well. So I'll build across here. You don't have to do airflow the whole way. Maybe I'll do some sandstone as well. And we got a Draco living in there, which is kind of cute. So I'll probably dig out some of this algae. And put a ladder on this end. So that we can get up to higher and higher levels. So now we can start putting some food storage in here. So I'm going to put a ration box. Later on you get fridges. We got little bits of oxygen coming in, which is not ideal. But the oxygen will make its way to the top, and the chlorine should keep our food nice and sterile. So let's put that in there. I might put it over to the edge a little bit, so the oxygen doesn't ever hit it. So we'll get that built. And then we'll move all our food into this ration box and it'll kill all the germs. So there we go. Let's set it to all. Priority 8. And then I'm going to deconstruct this ration box here. And that way they'll stick all the food in here and all the germs will get killed. And we also have germs. We had germs in here, but I guess they're all dead. We'll get another food shortage. Let's switch over back to mush bars just for a little bit. So we got some bristle blossoms growing now that we have some light. Which is good. Let's copy the settings there. So you can see I hooked up, it only requires 8 watts of power, so it's a tiny amount of power. Now we can probably do some coal power, now that we've researched it. The coal generator's here. I'm going to build that up here. I'll leave a little bit of space because I might want to do some cooling here later on. You do, later on as you kind of venture out in the map, you'll find cold biomes, ice biomes that are filled with ice, and little creatures called wheezeworts. And the wheezeworts you can put in your base, you can plant them and they'll cool down your base. They're really useful. So we'll be getting into that later. The germs that were on these rocks, I guess they're all gone, so we don't need to move the germy dirt that was in there in here just yet. But we can see, if we look at our food in the food container here, it's in a sterile atmosphere. So it won't ever rot. It'll stay at fresh 75% unless it encounters some oxygen, which is making its way up there. And we can expand this room as we go. But we are getting a little bit of chlorine leaking out, which is not ideal. But like I said, I'll do a separate tutorial for liquid locks to show you how to build one of those. So we're going to keep digging down here in order to get the CO2 level to keep falling down. Ideally I would go straight through here, but this water's in the way, so I'm going to kind of go down this way, leaving a 3 tile gap where this water is so that it doesn't break through. And then we can get in here, get some of these plants and stuff, this algae. Might as well dig these up as well. And there's some oxalate in here, so we'll get some free oxygen. But we need a ladder, or I gotta dig this one little piece out so they can get in there. And we do have a hatch here that's living amongst the plants, and he's able to jump up here and eat our food, so I'm gonna dig this down slightly. Down to here, and then we'll let him live in this lower level here. That way he won't be able to get up and eat our plants. So we got our coal generator. Let's hook that up to our main power grid here. And currently we have potential power consumed is 788, and this wire can handle 1000 watts. So that's okay right now. And I might skip ahead as they kind of catch up with their work here. Now, the next thing we want to research is probably meal preparation, which gives us an electric grill for making more different types of food, and a mess table. So we'll be able to build a nice mess table, which will enable us to build a kitchen. It's actually called, under our room overlay, it's called a mess hall. So if they eat in the mess hall, it'll reduce their stress even more, which is what we want. We want them to be all nice and happy. You can see that top left here, Bert's stress is up to 18%. The other thing we can do to help reduce stress is to put in some paintings. So under furniture, there's blank canvas. And if you make these out of granite, if you look here, if you make it out of sandstone, you'll get a material decor effect plus 10%, but if you build it out of granite, you get plus 20%. So I'm going to build these in the bedroom. I'm going to build a painting over each bed. And the canvas itself gives decor, which helps reduce stress, but it also, once it gets painted, it will reduce stress even more. So you want to put these paintings near where the dupes spend a lot of their time. So I'll probably put one above the research station here, and above the power wheel because they're running on that wheel quite a bit. And I gotta set the priority of this wire higher. Actually, they'll get around to building it. So paintings here, and you also have under furniture, you have this sculpting block, which you want to use granite, and you can put those kind of in various areas to also increase decor. Now, if you look at these storage containers, they actually have negative decor. So you may want to build them kind of not in the core of your base. You might want to put them off to the side. So I'll skip ahead. Once I get all this built, I can show you some paintings and get the coal generator going. So I've skipped ahead here, and they've been able to build some of these paintings. So you can see they have a decor of +6, and a radius of 6 tiles. So they kind of have an overlapping decor effect. So now we've got much more decor in here, so when they sleep at night, they'll be much happier. And we got our coal generator up. I set the priority quite high on it, to 8, in order for them to deliver the coal pretty often to this thing. And we have little pockets of coal here throughout. And if we run out of coal, it's not a big deal. We can just get them to stop using the manual generator. I reserve priority 9 for emergencies, but I might actually set this coal generator to 9 because we want them to fill it kind of right away. Now, you can also set the priority of the blank canvases. I'll set one to 9 just so we can get one of the dupes to paint it. And under jobs, you want to make sure you have one dupe assigned to art. So we got Ruby here who's ready to kind of graduate to becoming an artist. So we'll set Ruby to artist, and our Nickel is ready to be upgraded to chef. And we'll keep an eye on the rest of the dupes there. I like to clear off the jobs mastered once I kind of level them up. And I think it's safe to take on another dupe. We've got a decent amount of food. We've got a decent amount of oxygen. So we'll go for a 6th dupe here. And we got 2 with diver's lungs, which is really good. We got one that has ranching, which will become useful later. So I'm gonna... Actually, I'll go with Joshua. They're going to bed here. We do have chlorine building up in the level between the oxygen and the CO2. So I want to get down here and provide more space for the CO2 to go into. I might actually dig out kind of an area here for it to go into. And there's also ways to clean up the CO2. You can build a algae terrarium. I don't advise you use these because they're not very efficient. They'll waste a lot of your water and your algae. And later on you get a carbon skimmer, which can take clean water, destroy the carbon dioxide, and create polluted water for you. But it's easier just to dig areas for the CO2 to fall into initially, because there's quite a bit of room for you to allow the CO2 to fall down all the way down here. But make sure to put in airflow tiles. I'll put some airflow tiles in here so that it can make its way down. Kind of space them. I usually leave 4 spaces in between each airflow tile. Now the next thing I recommend that you research is probably the brute force refinement, which is going to give you the rock granulator. That'll allow you to make refined metal, and with refined metal you can make a smart battery later on. And the smart battery will allow you to save a bunch of power, so we're going to do that next. And we got a Dreco in the base, which is kind of cute. Running around. You may also want to set your deodorizers to a higher priority, so you make sure the dupes come along and add sand, because you don't want too much polluted water, or sorry, polluted oxygen building up. And at some point we want to upgrade our outhouses to or lavatories. So under plumbing, you can see we have a lavatory, which is a fancier, cleaner version of the outhouse. But I avoid building these until I have found a water geyser or steam geyser, which you'll find out in the map. They kind of spawn in random locations. But until you have access to renewable water, I suggest you stick with the outhouses, because you only have a fixed amount of water. We just have these three pools of water, and then that's pretty much it. We could also be recycling or turning our polluted water into clean water with a thing called a sieve, but I'll save that for future episodes. Now we got a bunch of our paintings in here, and we can see these have plus 24 decor now with a 6 tile radius. So the decor in here just got much, much better. So when they sleep at night, their stress will go down even more. And Ruby here is working on a sculpting block, so we'll get a nice piece of art there. The sculpting block itself gives off decor, which is nice. But once they turn it into a piece of art, it gives even more. You want to keep an eye on the top left here. If you have idle dupes, make sure they have something to do. And I just noticed Joshua doesn't have a job. So we'll give Joshua the digging job, I guess, for now. And the chlorine level is still kind of in a bad area right here because it's affecting our plants. So we want to provide more area for the CO2 to fall down into. I'll probably just dig out some more pockets here. But first I want to put in a layer of tile here, because the sand otherwise will fall down. So we'll just do some tile here first. And then we'll dig out this bottom section. We don't want to release this hydrogen yet. But we got coal down here, we got algae, we got a lot of good stuff down here. Now it's warmer down here, but the dupes will be okay. And so we'll keep working our way down, kind of exploring. I usually like to explore in all 4 directions. If you hit Alt S, you can go into screenshot mode and kind of zoom out and see what you've explored. Now I avoid the slime until, because there's so many germs in it, until we have a thing called exosuits. You can also dig into the slime without exosuits, but it's a little bit more finicky, a little bit more tricky. And notice we have reed fiber, or thimble reed here. This is a plant that grows, it needs, right now it's not growing because it has the wrong atmosphere. But it will grow in oxygen, polluted oxygen, carbon dioxide. It says it will grow in polluted water, but that's interesting. So because it's a vacuum right now, we want to get some actual air in there. But we definitely don't want to dig up this slime. So what I'll do is I'll dig across and then up and get some oxygen going in there. So we'll dig across right here. Expose this oxalite so we get some free oxygen. And then probably build a ladder up there out of sandstone's fine. And the reason for doing this is that once this starts growing again, it'll grow in the wild very slowly. It takes 8 cycles to grow. This will start making thimble reed for us. Or sorry, reed fiber, which is the product of this plant. And once we have enough reed fiber, we can start making exosuits and other types of clothing. So I rely on natural plants a lot. You can also grow it in your base with polluted water. But it's easier just to let it grow in the wild and accumulate on its own. We have a new dupe. I just realized we're missing a bed, so I will put in another bed. Right here, out of granite. And this isn't the perfect bedroom size. It right now is 48 tiles, but it could be 64 tiles, so we could extend it, make it a little bit bigger. I just noticed stress is back down to 0 for all our dupes, so that's excellent. So all this decor and the room bonuses, this is keeping the stress really low for the duplicants, which is kind of my primary goal when I play, one of the primary goals. And immunity is 100% for all the dupes, so we've contained all the germs, which is also very good. Now the next thing that we want to do, this water will eventually run out, and then this water will run out. We want to continue to explore, try to find a steam geyser, but we want to explore carefully so we don't go through all this slime. And there's ways to dig through here without releasing any chlorine or algae. We just have to be careful where we dig. And we also want to keep exploring down towards the bottom. I'll make this ladder out of granite because it has a slightly higher decor. We'll go all the way down here. Now, one bad point about building really long ladders is that all the materials will end up at the bottom of the ladder. So when they finally dig all this out, all the things that they dig up will end up down here, and they'll have to run down there and get it. So you can build a ladder maybe down to here, and then kind of go to the left, and then have a little drop off so that the materials collect. But I'm just going to build a straight ladder down. I'm not going to take on another dupe just yet, because we're pretty good with 6 at the moment. Okay, I just want to stop here for a second. You see that Bert has 7% stress? If we click on Bert, we can see his stress going down when he sleeps at night because of the nice bathroom, decor expectations, and the sleeping part. So that brings his stress down during the night, usually to 0, depending on how he starts out. The next thing to research, I'm going to do generic sensors, which includes that smart battery. And that'll help us more efficiently use our power. But I think this is a good place to end the episode, and next episode we'll continue on doing some of the beginner guide basics. So I hope you enjoyed that. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.